Hey everyone, Thanksgiving is officially over. The green bean casserole has been absolutely demolished by me. I did that. And the realization is starting to set in that you need to start buying gifts and you have no idea where to start. Well, don't worry, I got you. Welcome to the Might I Suggest a Game Holiday Gift Guide. So if you want to crack the code on holiday shopping this year and find that perfect board game for everyone on your list, then might I suggest... Hi, I'm Alex from Might I Suggest a Game, a channel devoted to helping you find your perfect board game. And today we're jumping into this year's Might I Suggest a Game Holiday Gift Guide, where I key you into the best board games at all different price points so that you can go into the gift-giving season feeling confident. My guide this year is broken up into 4 different categories. We've got stocking stuffer games, games on a budget, sweet spot games right there in that $30 to $45 zone, and investments, which are games that cost a little bit more but are totally worth the price tag. I'll have a link to all of my picks down in the description below so you know where to buy them. But let me know what your picks are for these categories in the comments too. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit subscribe and that little bell button so you can get notified when I post new content. Anyways, we've got a bunch of games to talk about today, so let's get right into it. Will one of these games be the perfect holiday gift for you? Let's find out, shall we? Okay, starting off with the stocking stuffers. These games are cheap and compact, sure, but they're going to be way more fun than anything else you can get in your stocking, I promise. No. Excuse me. Anyways, here are 3 different games for different types of people that are $20 or less. They're small enough to fit in your stocking, but they still pack a big punch. Do you have a person in your family, maybe a grandparent, that only wants to play classic card games and nothing else? Maybe they're just a traditionalist, or maybe they just don't want to learn new rules. But either way, I've got a game for them. Romy Rami is a super quick card game for 2 to 4 players that's currently going at about $15. I love this game because it feels like a card game that somehow you already know. The mechanics in the game are all ones that you've encountered before, but the way that they're combined is what really makes this game a winner. In Romy Rami, you'll be collecting cards into your hand to complete contracts and score the most points to win the game. Now these contracts, they're all in a face-up market for everyone to see. So if someone else takes the one you're going for, you're out of luck. The really cool part about this game is that whenever you complete a contract, you can complete it with any suit. But if you play cards that match the suit of the contract, then you get to keep those ones for extra points at the end of the game. The whole concept of Romy Rami is super simple, but finding that balance between completing a contract that's worth a lot of points or one that's worth less points but with a bunch of cards of that suit makes each turn a really interesting decision-making space. This game rules. I've played this a ton since I picked it up at Gen Con. It's such a good and quick game that you can always get to the table even when you only have a little bit of time. So if you're looking for something budget friendly that can really spice up your family's board game circuit by being a game that feels both fresh and familiar at the same time, then might I suggest Romy Rami. Alright, next up, do you have someone in your life that you only see around the holidays because they're always traveling? Or maybe you're the one that's jet-setting around the world and you need a cheap gift after you've spent your life savings on plane tickets? Well, either way, this next one's for you. Sea Salt and Paper is a super clever card game in a tiny little box for 2 to 4 players that you can find for about $15. I love this game because it plays great at every player count, and it's so easy to pack in a bag or a backpack, so much so that I may or may not have misplaced my copy. I think it's probably in the glove compartment or something. Anyways, in Sea Salt and Paper, you'll be drawing cards from the deck or the discard pile to make sets in your hand to get to 7 points or higher. Once somebody gets to 7 points in their hand, they can choose to let the round keep going, or they can stop it in one of 2 ways. The first way is the more conservative way. You can just say stop and lay down your hand and show that you have 7 or more points, and everyone else will lay down their cards and get whatever points they have in their hand. Now, if you need a little bit of a bigger swing of points, you can always take the more risky option. If you've got 7 or more points in your hand, you can also say last chance. When you say last chance, you'll reveal your hand to show how many points you have, and then everybody else gets one more turn to try to beat your score. If they beat it, then you're out of luck and you'll only get a little bit of a bonus this round. But if you beat everybody else's score, then their scores are diminished and you get a personal bonus. It's a really interesting mix of biding your time and knowing when to push your luck, and even though there's a decent amount of player interaction, it never feels too mean. This one's been a great one to pull out at the pub or the party, and it's so convenient because it just fits in your pocket. So if you want a quick and compact card game that's equal parts luck and strategy with some amazing origami art that's sure to impress at any table, then might I suggest Sea Salt and Paper. Okay, think about your family. Now, which one of them would you consider the wild card? You know, they're unpredictable, you never know their next move. Trust me, there's always one, and if you can't think of one, then I hate to break it to you, it might be you. Anyways, this next game is for those wild cards. Chicken is a push or cluck dice game for 2 to 8 players that you can get for only 20 bucks, and frankly, it might be the best $20 you ever spend. I love this game because it's so unpredictable, it always leads to some improbable victories and crushing defeats, and it always makes the people at the table yell and laugh and invoke their crazy superstitions, and I just love that in a game. In Chicken, you'll start with 4 dice that you can roll twice on your turn. If you roll a chicken, congrats, you get to keep that, it's a point. If you roll a fox, you have to keep that too, but if you get 3 foxes, you'll bust. And if you roll an egg, now that's when the fun starts. If you roll an egg, you'll get to add more dice from the middle. Each of these dice from the middle are slightly better than the starting dice. They've got more opportunities to score chickens, but they've also got more foxes on them, which means there's a bigger opportunity to bust. On your turn, you get to decide whether you want to roll all of the dice that have been accrued up to this point, or if you want to chicken out and just start back with the starting dice again. Personally, I'm no chicken, so I always take a big fistful of dice and roll them, because, you know, go big or go home. Anyways, you can only re-roll the die once on your turn, and like I said, if you get 3 foxes, then you bust. But if you make it out without busting, then you'll count up your chickens and score those as points, and whoever gets to 25 points first wins. This game is a blast. It's always got people excited and yelling and wondering what's gonna happen next. It's one of those few games that actually plays better with more players, and it's one that I never go to the party without. So if you want a quick party game with some wild moments that gets better the more players and the more drinks you have, then might I suggest Chicken. Alright, now it's time to talk about some of my favorite games this year that I think are an absolute steal. To be clear, all of the stocking stuffers could fit in this category too, but these next 3 will probably look better in some wrapping paper. You can find all of these games online or at your local game store for $25 or less, which frankly is such a good deal. I mean, I feel like I spent more than that on McDonald's last week. Yeesh. Anyways, let's get into it. Do you have a friend that's always cooking for you? Or maybe a sibling that fancies themselves a bit of a chef? Sorry bud, pizza rolls don't count. Well, I've got a quick game just for them. Diced Veggies is a light game of culinary strategy for 2 to 4 players that you can find for around $20. I love this game because it's one that you just get right away. But the more you play, the more you realize how you might have done things differently, which then leads you to wanting to play over and over again. In this game, you'll be taking the cleaver and carving out veggie dice from the center. You'll then keep these veggie dice in your pantry and use them to complete the different recipes in front of you. When you complete these recipes, you can also add hype cards to them to boost their point total. The tricky part is when you take dice from the middle, the total amount of pips can only go up to a certain amount, so you really have to be clever where you chop from so that you can maximize your ingredients. This game is super simple and has been really easy to get to the table. I love the tactile nature and the toy factor of this game, and it's been a hit with both new and veteran players. So if you're looking for a game with great presentation that's easy to prepare but offers some surprisingly deep flavors that can be appreciated by all palates, then might I suggest Diced Veggies. Okay, close your eyes. When I say astrology, who do you think of? Maybe it's a chill aunt or a woo-woo friend of yours. Either way, this next game's for them. Starry Night Sky is a constellation connection game for 2 to 4 players that's available for an outrageously low $21 right now. I love this game because it just looks so nice on the table. The little stars and illustrations are so nice, it always makes people stop and stare and wonder what you're playing. In this game, you'll be stargazing by moving around the board and adding stars to different constellations to try to complete your private objectives. The game is super simple, but it gets over pretty quickly, so you really have to be smart about your action economy in the game to make sure that you can get everywhere you need to go. I was amazed at how easy this one was to pick up, and when I looked at it and all the components in it, I was so surprised to see this at such a low price. This one has amazing table presence, it's just so nice to look at, and it's a great gateway game for new players. So if you want a shiny and fun new game to play while the incense burns, or you can blame the final scoring on your star sign, I'm an Aries, so I always win one way or another. Then might I suggest Starry Night Sky. Alright, we all know someone who's constantly goofing off, but is smarter than they look and would probably be super successful if they would just manage to apply themselves to something. Ew, that hits close to home. Anyways, this game is for me, I mean, that person. Big Top is a clever bidding game for 3 to 4 players that you can find for $24. I love this game not because of the theme, frankly I could do without the circus theme, but because the auction mechanic is really well focused, where you feel like every bid counts, and spoiler alert, every bid does count, and I'll tell you why. In Big Top you're going to be playing as different ringmasters trying to accrue the best circus acts that are going to make you the most money at the end of the game. Each turn a new circus act will come to auction. If it's your turn, then you get to bid first, but you have to be smart about it because anyone else who wins this card will end up paying you for the act. This is really the only way to get income, so auctions on your turn are really important. Otherwise you'll go from player to player auctioning off new circus acts and trying to determine how much each of them is worth. Now the tricky part is you're not just throwing out bids willy-nilly, each of those acts also has numbers on them that correspond to different bids. If you bid a number that's on one of your cards, you get to put a coin on that, which gets you one step closer to completing that card and scoring points for it. Once you complete a card too, all of the bids that are on that card end up going back into your supply as cash. Big Top is a really interesting auction game because sometimes you're bidding not to actually win the thing that's up for grabs, but to complete the different acts in front of you instead. It's a really cool mechanic, and it makes sure that everyone is bidding for almost everything. I've really enjoyed delving into the strategy of this one, and I think it really stacks up well with some of those other classic auction games like Raw or For Sale. So if you've ever wanted to run away and join the circus, or if you just want a fresh take on an auction game where every bid matters, then might I suggest Big Top. Okay, before we go any further, I want to put you on one more gift-giving tip this year, and spoiler alert, it's a shameless plug. If you've been a supporter of this channel from the beginning and you want to grab some merch, or if you just want some cool board game themed apparel to wear to your next convention, then might I suggest checking out my Etsy shop. All the stuff in the store uses graphics that I designed, and from now until Christmas, you can use promo code might I suggest to get 10% off your order. My personal favorite is the Player Colors tee. I've got 5 colors in the shop right now, but let me know if I'm missing your favorite. Anyways, the link to the shop will be down below in the description. Thanks as always for supporting the channel. Alright, back to games. Our next category is sweet spot games, those board games that fall into that $30 to $45 range where you really feel like you're buying a substantial gift for someone. There's a lot of good games at this price point, but also a lot of mediocre ones, and I want to make sure you don't get stuck with a dud. So here are my top 3 picks for new games in this category. Are you friends with a couple that's obsessed with their cat? I mean, they use them as an excuse to leave the party early, they take kitschy Christmas photos with them, you know, all that. Well, this next one is definitely for them. Boop is an abstract game about booping kittens off the bed. It plays with 2 players only, although the cat is implied, of course, and it's going for $32. I love this game because it's amazingly simple, but because of the near infinite permeations of the board state, it still feels endlessly replayable, which is really hard to do these days. In this game, you'll play as one of 2 different types of kittens trying to bump each other off the bed and maneuver your way to get 3 kittens in a row. Once you get 3 kittens in a row, your kittens will upgrade to cats. And once you get 3 cats in a row, you win. And I mean, that's pretty much it.
Could it really be that simple?
This game is so good because you just learn it by playing it. And the more you start placing these kittens and cats on the board, the more you realize, hey, this game actually is way more strategic than I thought. I mean, every time you try to maneuver into position, all your opponent has to do is place one really smart kitten and your whole plan is shot. I was really surprised when I played this game for the first time, and then I couldn't stop playing it. And I think you'll have the same kind of experience. So if you want a super cute 2-player game that you can play both as a light and quick, mindless sort of game, or as a deep, thoughtful, and strategic game as well. Or frankly, if you just love little kittens, then might I suggest Boop. Do you have a friend that's always up on the latest news? Or maybe a parent that still gets the newspaper delivered to their doorstep every day? Well, for anyone that's ever fancied themselves a journalist, this one's for you. Fit to Print is a 1 to 6 player game about cute critters delivering that hard-hitting journalism, and it's going for about $40 right now. I love this game because it really nails the real-time element. It gives you rules that are easy enough to understand that you feel like you can track them all. Spoiler alert, you can't. But it also gives you a time limit that makes things feel hectic in a good way. In this game, you'll be collecting news stories and ads and photos to put into your paper, but the tricky part is you have to go to print before the timer runs out. Half of the round is spent flipping over tiles in the middle and gathering them to place on your desk. Then once you're ready to go to print, you'll stop taking tiles from the middle and start taking the tiles that you put on your desk into your newspaper. There's some tricky rules where photos can't touch photos, ads can't touch ads, and articles of the same type cannot touch articles of the same type. But if you remember all of these and place all of your stories accordingly, then you'll be able to max out your points. I hate to break it to you though, trying to do do all of this in 5 minutes is really difficult, especially on your first play. But don't worry, everyone else is feeling the pressure too. You're gonna play the game over 3 rounds, and each round the newspaper gets slightly larger so you can add more stuff in, and whoever has the most points at the end of 3 rounds wins. This game is adorable, and each of the little headlines on the articles has its own little news story, which make every tile really fun to read. But really, I like this game because it's one of the best real-time games I've ever played. Plus, there's a bunch of extra rules in the box that include a turn-by-turn mode and a team mode that give you tons of different ways to play the game. So if you're looking for a cute game that gives you enough strategy to feel like you're improving every time you play, but enough hectic energy from the real-time aspect to level the playing field for new players too, then might I suggest Fit to Print. Do you have a friend that watches Jeopardy for fun? Or maybe some cousins that like to have a bunch of people over for a fun trivia night? Or maybe it's you. Maybe you're the smartest one in the family. I know. It's a tough burden to bear. If that sounds like you, then check out this new game. CDSK is a new trivia party game for 2 to 16 players that you can find for $35 right now. I love this game because it has all of the depth of a classic trivia game like Trivial Pursuit, but it adds in some crazy chaotic moments that Trivial Pursuit wishes it had. Let me explain. In CDSK, you'll be traversing the board and landing on spaces that have one of 4 categories. You can answer questions in the curious category, which is kind of like general knowledge, the delightful category, which is like sports and pop culture, the season category, which is kind of like school of life type of questions, and the knowledge category, which is book smarts. The main twist of this game, though, is that every time you get asked a question, you get to hear the category and then determine on a scale of 1 to 10 how well you know that category. So for example, a category might be, on a scale of 1 to 10, how well do you know Taylor Swift? For me, admittedly, it's a little less than what I'm proud of. So maybe I say 3 out of 10. But for my sister, that's a 10 out of 10 easy. You'll continue answering questions like this and moving around the board, and you might even land on a challenge space. If you land on a challenge space, you'll get to do some sort of challenge, which is usually some sort of rapid fire questions that'll move you even further along the board. These challenge spaces can really change the landscape of the game super quickly, so I personally really like that. Once you get to the end, you still have to answer one final question, and these hurry up and win questions are absolutely brutal. But if you manage to answer it correctly and you manage to do it first, then congratulations, you win. This game has been a hit at every party I've brought it to, and it's great because there are so many categories, there's bound to be something you're a 10 out of 10 on. You can take the slow and steady route and go 4s and 5s each round, or you can push your luck and shoot for those 7, 8s, 9s, and 10s. But be careful, those 10s are really difficult. So if you're looking to prove that you're the smartest in the friend group, or the most daring, or just the one that has the best game recommendations for a super fun game night, then might I suggest CDSK. Okay, this last category is called investments because that's exactly what you're doing. You're investing in a game that's more expensive up front, but will pay off in dividends in the future. These 3 games might have a hefty price tag, but I promise the juice is worth the squeeze. And that's the whole point of this holiday gift guide after all. Maybe if you get on these games early, you might stumble across some Black Friday deals. Anyways, here's to hoping. Let's get into it. Do you have someone in your family that's notorious for having road rage? Or maybe you've got a friend that just likes to watch the world burn at game night. Well, for your resident chaos agents, this game is for them. Thunder Road Vendetta is a 2 to 4 player, Mad Maxian, shoot 'em up, blow 'em up, death race kind of game, and the base game is going for about $60. Although the expansions are totally worth it, and each of those is going for about $40 too. I love this game because I have never once ended a game in my seat. There are so many crazy moments of insanely consequential dice rolls or ridiculous combo effects that make every turn a wild ride. In Thunder Road Vendetta, you'll be working your caravan around the different obstacles on the board and trying to eliminate the other players while still making it to the finish line before anyone else. You can shoot at different people, you can place landmines, you can drop an airstrike on people. It gets absolutely crazy out there. Not to mention the different obstacles on the board that can really change the game. Maybe you push your luck and drive over a hidden obstacle, you flip it over, it's a pit. Boom. Immediately, one of your cars gone. Or maybe you drive over that obstacle and it's a ramp, and boom, your car's 5 spaces ahead. There is absolutely no predicting what is going to happen each and every time you play this game. I really think it's more of an experience than a game personally, and every single time I play it, I have just had an absolute blast, even when I get blown up. And if you're worried about player elimination, don't. You've got 3 cars in your caravan, and even if you are the first person to lose all 3 of your cars, this triggers the end of the race, which means that it's going to be over really soon anyways. This game is totally insane, and I absolutely love it. It has quickly become one of those games that I will never say no to. So if you're looking for a game that feels like chaos incarnate and that will constantly keep you on the edge of your seat whether you're succeeding or failing miserably, and that consistently creates memorable moments in every play, then might I suggest Thunder Road Vendetta. Okay, I think every family probably has one kid that grew up really into dinosaurs. Spoiler alert, it was me. Or maybe you've got a friend that's really into the Jurassic Park universe. Personally, I'm most interested in Jeff Goldblum.
You'll have to get used to Dr. Malcolm.
Either way, for that Dinophile in your life, this game is for them. Jurassic World: The Legacy of Isla Nublar is a 1 to 4 player, dinosaur-filled, legacy campaign-style game that starts at around $120, which sounds like a lot at first, but when you look at all the effort they put into the production of this thing, I can see why it earned the price tag. I love this game partially because I'm biased. I mean, I love dinosaurs, and this is also the first campaign game that I ever finished. Can you believe that? But that being said, I thought the campaign was nice and tense, but not impossible to win, and it was a perfect intro into the legacy genre. In this game, you'll be playing through the different events that happen all the way from the original Jurassic Park to the newest Jurassic World movie. You'll get to play as the different characters that are introduced in the new generations, and you get to discover and maybe even genetically engineer new dinosaurs in almost every single scenario. I really loved being able to take the framework of the Jurassic Park universe and tell our own story within that framework, using some of my favorite characters, including Dr. Ian Malcolm, and finding new ways to interact with the different dinosaurs on the board. And I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but those dinosaurs even evolved as the game went on as well. Overall, this was a great experience for my first ever Legacy game, and I know that there are some dino fans out there that are just gonna love this game. So if you want to live out the events of the entire Jurassic Park timeline on your own terms, and if you want to play out an engaging campaign to try to find a way to make things work in the end, because as we all know,
life finds a way.
then might I suggest Jurassic World: The Legacy of Isla Nublar. If you've got friends in your D&D group that are really into storytelling but are looking for something a little bit more strategic, or some siblings that are really into board games and appreciate some quality components, or let's be honest, you're looking for a top-notch gift for yourself to be a showpiece in your collection, then this last one will be the perfect one for you. My Father's Work is an app-driven worker placement game for 2 to 4 players that's going for about $125. And after having played it several times over the last year, I can confidently say, only $125? I love this game because it takes a fairly simple worker placement and order fulfillment puzzle, and then wraps it into some amazing storytelling elements that not only immerse you in the world of the game, but also make every decision feel really important because it might affect the ending of the scenario. In My Father's Work, you'll be playing as the sons and daughters of a crazy madman who are hell-bent in continuing on his weird legacy. The game is played over 3 generations, and each decision that you make in previous generations will affect the events that happen in later generations. There's so many twists and turns and decision-making spaces in the game that even if you play the same scenario over and over again, you're almost always going to end up with totally different endings. And I think that is just fascinating. One of my favorite things about this game is the storytelling adds enough elements of intrigue to the game that the worker placement element of the game doesn't just become an efficiency puzzle. Obviously, you want to take actions that are going to further your goals, but there are also some really enticing plot points that could really benefit you if you can fit them into your strategy. I love seeing all the different twists and turns and how my decisions affect the later generations in the game. I just think it's tied together so nicely with an app that also has some amazing voice acting, and it is just an absolute delight to play. Obviously, this one is a hefty game, and it'll take you several hours to play even if you've played it before, but the game comes with 3 different scenario packs, and the app really keeps you immersed no matter which scenario you're playing, so it really feels like there's endless possibilities in this box. So anyways, if you're looking for a game with some incredible attention to detail, from the top-notch components to the incredibly voice-acted prompts on the app that makes $125 feel like a steal, then might I suggest My Father's Work. Thanks so much for sticking around for the Might I Suggest a Game holiday gift guide this year. I truly hope that one of these games can be the perfect game for you or for someone you love this holiday season. Let me know in the comments what you thought about these suggestions and what picks you might have for these categories. And if you see any deals on these games, make sure to mention them in the comments too. Anyways, thanks so much for everyone who supported me so far. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so I can keep growing this channel and keep helping you find your perfect board game. Once again, this has been a Might I Suggest a Game production. I'm Alex, your board game sommelier, signing off.